The Upper Cumberland has so much amazing history, and museums across our counties are preserving this rich history. The White County Heritage Museum in Sparta, Tennessee is no exception. Chock full of intriguing and fascinating memorabilia, they are proud to share with their visitors all of the memories this great county has to offer.
My name is Peggy Hurto, and I'm the co-director of the museum, and my husband and I were responsible for setting up this museum 10 years ago. In 2006 was the bicentennial for White County. One of the parts of the celebration was several citizens here got together. They set up a display using Tennessee artifacts, White County artifacts, and made a, I guess you'd call it a semi-museum display, and that just encouraged the people then that they needed the museum. We just started setting up the displays and got the word out that we needed some things donated. The day before we opened, I was worried, do we have enough? Well, I don't worry about that anymore. We were overwhelmed with things, and the first year we opened, most of the items were loaned. They weren't given to us, they were loaned. This last year we had one loan and everything else is donated, and that seems to be the way it's going. They know we're here, we've been here 10 years, and we don't plan on going anywhere except maybe a bigger building. Then we have a military museum, which we think is great. We love to honor our soldiers, and we get a lot of uniforms, more uniforms than we can actually display at one time, so we tend to rotate those. We have a Civil War section, and in that section we have the revolver that belonged to General George Dibble, which was taken from him when he surrendered in Washington, Georgia. That gun ended up going all the way to Connecticut, and we found it on a website for sale all these years later. So I think it was 2009 we purchased that revolver using no county money, only donations from local people, from the UDC, from Sons of Confederate Veterans. Anybody that was interested and had relatives in the Civil War chipped in to buy that gun. And the interesting thing was, at the end of the trial period, we had it for 3 months. At the end of that period, we were $10,000 short, and an anonymous donor from Knoxville sent a courier with $10,000. To this day, we don't know who sent that money, but we are thankful for it. Back in the military section, again, this is something we've only had for a couple of months, and it was a local gentleman, Joseph Betterton, who was in the Navy, started out as a photographer's mate, then he was made chief photographer. And what I find really interesting about this man is during the bombing of Pearl Harbor, he climbed on top of an administration building taking photos of the planes bombing and firing upon the people in Pearl Harbor. He has a commendation for that, and the family has given us some pictures. Now, most of his pictures are in the Smithsonian. We have one of his cameras, we have his uniform, and after the war, he became a special ed teacher here in White County. I don't want to leave the women out on this. We have a young lady. This lady was White County High School graduate. She was a cheerleader. She went on to become a nurse. Then she went to Vietnam and was given several commendations for her nursing abilities there. And she died just a few years ago, and most of her items are on display in Nashville. But we do have her cheerleading uniform from White County. Because the train was so important here, we have a model train layout. It was actually built for us by a couple from the Crossville Model Railroad Club. My husband had belonged to that club, and so they were friends of his. And when we started the museum, the county executive and my husband both agreed had to have a train layout depicting that. This train layout shows Sparta at the turn of the century and other small towns in White County. Shows the old courthouse before it was torn down, and the train track actually goes up to the coal mines, goes through the coal mine, brings the coal back down, and it would go to Tullahoma. It would do this run 2 times a day, and it would have a passenger car. and people could ride down from the mountain, do their shopping, take the train back home in the afternoon. The history here, I have never seen so many famous people that came out of an area that I considered a small town, small county. It's amazing. Every day we learn something new about history here in White County, and we'll go, I didn't know that. You know, it's amazing. I have always liked history, even as a child, and doing my own family's genealogy just gets you deeper and deeper into it. But I am a firm believer that we learn from our history. If we don't preserve the history, how are we going to learn what to do and what not to do in the future? That's why I hate to see a lot of destruction or people just throwing things away that they think are no use because they're old. They are useful. They teach us lessons, and we need to learn those lessons.